Section 8 of Pirates of Panama, The Buccaneers of America, by A.O. Exquemelin, translated by G.A. Williams. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Heather and By. Chapter 6 Of the Origin of Francis l'Olonoise, and the Beginning of his Robberies. Francis l'Olonoise was a native of that territory in France which is called Les Sables d'Olone, or the Sands of Olone. In his youth he was transported to the Caribbee Islands, in quality of a servant or slave, according to custom, of which we have already spoken. Being out of his time, he came to Hispaniola. Here he joined for some time with hunters, before he began his robberies upon the Spaniards, which I shall now relate till his unfortunate death. At first he made 2 or 3 voyages as a common mariner, wherein he behaved himself so courageously as to gain the favour of the governor of Tortuga, Monsieur de la Place, insomuch that he gave him a ship, in which he might seek his fortune, which was very favourable to him at first, for in a short time he got great riches. But his cruelties against the Spaniards were such, that the fame of them made him so well known through the Indies, that the Spaniards in his time would choose rather to die or sink fighting than surrender, knowing they should have no mercy at his hands. But fortune, being seldom constant, after some time turned her back, for in a huge storm he lost his ship on the coast of Campeche. The men were all saved, but coming upon dry land, the Spaniards pursued them and killed the greatest part, wounding also l'Olonoise. Not knowing how to escape, he saved his life by a stratagem, mingling sand with the blood of his wounds, with which, besmearing his face and other parts of his body, and hiding himself dexterously among the dead, he continued there till the Spaniards quitted the field. They being gone, he retired to the woods, and bound up his wounds as well as he could. These being pretty well healed, he took his way to Campeche, having disguised himself in a Spanish habit. Here he enticed certain slaves, to whom he promised liberty if they would obey him and trust to his conduct. They accepted his promises, and stealing a canoe, they went to sea with him. Now the Spaniards, having made several of his companions prisoners, kept them close in a dungeon, while l'Olonoise went about the town and saw what passed. They were often asked, "What is become of your captain?" to whom they constantly answered, "He is dead," which rejoiced the Spaniards, who made bonfires, and knowing nothing to the contrary gave thanks to God for their deliverance from such a cruel pirate. L'Olonoise, having seen these rejoicings for his death, made haste to escape, with the slaves above mentioned, and came safe to Tortuga, the common refuge of all sorts of wickedness, and the seminary, as it were, of pirates and thieves. Though now his fortune was low, yet he got another ship with craft and subtlety, and in it 21 men. Being well provided with arms and necessaries, he set forth for Cuba, on the south whereof is a small village, called de los Caos. The inhabitants drive a great trade in tobacco, sugar, and hides, and all in boats, not being able to use ships by reason of the little depth of that sea. L'Olonoise was persuaded he should get here some considerable prey, but by the good fortune of some fishermen who saw him, and the mercy of God, they escaped him, for the inhabitants of the town dispatched immediately a vessel overland to the Havana, complaining that l'Olonoise was come to destroy them with 2 canoes. The governor could hardly believe this, having received letters from Campeche that he was dead, but at their importunity he sent a ship to their relief with 10 guns and 90 men well armed, giving them this express command, that they should not return into his presence without having totally destroyed those pirates. To this effect he gave them a negro to serve for a hangman, and orders that they should immediately hang every one of the pirates excepting l'Olonoise their captain, whom they should bring alive to the Havana. The ship arrived at Caos, of whose coming the pirates were advertised beforehand, and instead of flying, went to seek it in the river Estera, where she rode at anchor. The pirates seized some fishermen, and forced them by night to show them the entry of the port, hoping soon to obtain a greater vessel than their 2 canoes, and thereby to mend their fortune. They arrived after 2 in the morning, very nigh the ship, and the watch on board the ship asking them whence they came, if they had seen any pirates abroad, they caused one of the prisoners to answer, they had seen no pirates nor anything else. which answer made them believe that they were fled upon hearing of their coming. But they soon found the contrary, for about break of day the pirates assaulted the vessel on both sides, with their 2 canoes, with such vigour, that though the Spaniards behaved themselves as they ought, and made as good a defence as they could, making some use of their great guns, yet they were forced to surrender, being beaten by the pirates, with sword in hand, down under the hatches. From hence Lolonois commanded them to be brought up one by one, and in this order caused their heads to be struck off. Among the rest came up the negro, designed to be the pirate's executioner. This fellow implored mercy at his hands very dolefully, telling Lolonois he was constituted hangman of that ship, and if he would spare him, he would tell him faithfully all that he should desire. Lolonois, making him confess what he thought fit, commanded him to be murdered with the rest. Thus he cruelly and barbarously put them all to death, reserving only one alive, whom he sent back to the governor of the Havana with this message in writing: "I shall never henceforward give quarter to any Spaniard whatsoever, and I have great hopes I shall execute on your own person the very same punishment I have done upon them you sent against me. Thus I have retaliated the kindness you designed to me and my companions." The governor, much troubled at this sad news, swore in the presence of many that he would never grant quarter to any pirate that should fall into his hands. But the citizens of the Havana desired him not to persist in the execution of that rash and rigorous oath, seeing the pirates would certainly take the occasion from thence to do the same, and they had 100 times more opportunity of revenge than he, that being necessitated to get their livelihood by fishery, they should hereafter always be in danger of their lives. By these reasons he was persuaded to bridle his anger, and remit the severity of his oath. Now Lolonois had got a good ship, but very few provisions and people in it, to purchase both which, he resolved to cruise from one port to another. Doing this for some time without success, he determined to go to the port of Maracaibo. Here he surprised a ship laden with plate, and other merchandises, outward bound to buy cocoa nuts. With this prize he returned to Tortuga, where he was received with joy by the inhabitants. They congratulated his happy success, and their own private interest. He stayed not long there, but designed to equip a fleet sufficient to transport 500 men and necessaries. Thus provided, he resolved to pillage both cities, towns, and villages, and finally to take Maracaibo itself. For this purpose he knew the island of Tortuga would afford him many resolute and courageous men, fit for such enterprises. Besides, he had in his service several prisoners well acquainted with the ways and places designed upon. End of chapter 6.